This is the Jasion EB7 2.0, a compact folding electric bike that lets me roll over rough streets and gravel paths without beating up my wrists or my lower back, and it still folds small enough to slide into a car trunk without a wrestling match. I think of it as a city and suburb explorer with real trail curiosity. It fits riders who want a single bike for weekday errands and weekend wandering. If you live in an apartment, travel with a trailer, or just do not have room for a full-size frame, the folding design makes this feel practical, not just novel. I wanted suspension at both ends, tires that do not get skittish on loose surfaces, and a frame I could fold quickly when I needed to. That is what pushed me to this model. The design choices matter in day-to-day use. The frame folds in the middle with a sturdy latch that has a secondary safety catch. The handlebars also fold down, which reduces the height so it fits into tighter spaces. The latch has a solid feel when it clicks shut, and I have learned to give it a quick tug before I ride. The rear rack is not an afterthought. It is welded neatly, it lines up with the fender, and it works with included foot pegs. That rack has carried a backpack, a few bags of groceries, and on short neighborhood rides my daughter has sat behind me and held on while I kept the pace slow and steady. The fat 20-inch tires are wide enough to float over potholes and curb cuts without that sharp kick you get from skinny tires. They are not loud on pavement, and they do not squirm on packed dirt. The saddle has decent padding and a quick release post for easy height changes. The kickstand is reassuringly stout. Little things like that make parking on uneven ground less of a gamble. Assembly was easier than I expected. From opening the box to a test ride took me around 30 minutes. I attached the front wheel, tightened the handlebars, bolted on the rack and foot pegs, and tweaked the fenders so they did not rub. The tools in the box were good enough to get everything done. I gave the brakes a slight adjustment to center the calipers and added air to the tires to the pressure printed on the sidewall. It did not feel like a project. It felt like putting together a sturdy bike that wanted to get out the door. On the road, the bike feels reassuring from the first pedal stroke. The pedal assist levels are labeled from 1 through 5. Level 1 gives a gentle push that feels natural. Level 3 is where I spend most of my time because it balances effort and speed. Level 5 wakes up the motor in a way that makes hills feel shorter and stop signs less of a chore. The throttle is handy for quick launches across intersections or rolling through a slow turn, though it can feel jumpy in the highest assist level. So I use a lower level when I want finer control. Shifting through the 7 gears is simple because everything is on the right side. It is not a performance drivetrain, but it engages cleanly and makes it easy to match cadence with whatever speed the assist is giving me. The heart of the experience is the motor and battery, but I do not want to read spec sheets at you. What matters is how it rides. With pedal assist on level 5, I have seen an indicated speed near 28 miles per hour on flat ground with a light breeze. Throttle only settles closer to the low 20s for me, and that is enough to keep up with traffic on neighborhood streets. On a long hill that usually makes me groan, the bike held a steady pace and never felt like it was bogging down. I had to downshift to keep a comfortable cadence, but the power was there. The dual suspension takes the edge off broken pavement and rooty paths. It is not a magic carpet. Hit a big pothole and you will still feel it, but the harshness is muted. The front fork can dive under very hard braking, and the rear spring can feel a bit bouncy if I am seated and rolling over those repeated washboard ripples. I learned to stand up slightly in those sections, and it smooths right out. Range is always the big question with an electric bike. I have ridden 10.4 miles on a mixed route of pavement and gravel with a couple of climbs, using pedal assist between levels 2 and 4, and I rolled back with plenty of battery bars left on the display. On flatter routes at steady pace in level 2 or 3, I can comfortably plan for a longer ride without range anxiety. If I lean on throttle only or stay in level 5 the entire time, the battery drops faster, which is not surprising. The battery slides out with a key, and that is a huge deal for long-term ownership. Batteries wear. Being able to remove it, charge it inside, or replace it in the future keeps the bike viable. Charging from near empty takes around 5 hours for me with the included charger. The braking performance has been confidence-inspiring after a short break-in. The levers have a crisp bite, and I can feather speed without grabbing. After the first couple of rides, the brakes felt stronger and more consistent. I did a few downhill stops to get a sense of heat fade and did not notice any drama. The bike's weight helps it feel planted, though that same weight means carrying it upstairs is a workout. I would call it a solid 60-pound feeling lift. If you need to haul it up a few flights often, that is something to consider. For real-world testing, I used it for a school run. Backpack on the rack, smooth streets, a short stretch of rough sidewalk where construction left uneven edges, and then a small hill before the crosswalk. The bike handled stop-and-go traffic cleanly. I kept it on level 2 or 3 to maintain control near kids and cars, and the throttle saved me from a wobbly launch when a driver waved me through. Later, I took it on a local greenway with packed gravel and a few sandy patches. The fat tires tracked straight without hunting, and the suspension filtered out those chatter bumps that usually make my hands numb. I also folded it and slid it into the back of my car next to some camping gear. The fold took less than a minute. The latch requires 2 deliberate motions, which I prefer because it feels safer. I do wish there was a small handle or strap built in to make lifting the folded frame easier. I have been using the main frame tube and the rack as handholds, and that works, but a dedicated handle would be welcome. Daily use comes with little discoveries. The digital display is bright and easy to read in shade, but in direct midday sun, I have to tilt it slightly to cut the glare. The integrated headlight is good for being seen and for slow riding on dim streets. For fast night rides on unlit paths, I still clip on an extra light. The small horn is a quick way to get attention, though it has a thin tone that cars sometimes ignore, so I still use hand signals and position myself clearly in lanes. The control pad for assist levels sits by my left thumb, and I can change levels without looking down after a few days of muscle memory. The cabling is mostly tidy, though the bundle at the front can look a little busy. Nothing has snagged or rattled, and the frame feels quiet with no odd creaks. One specific use case that has stood out is errands mixed with a little fun. I ride to the market, use the rack for a couple of small bags, and then detour through a park on the way home. On pavement, level 2 makes me feel like I have endless tailwind. On the park path, bump it to level 3, stay seated, and the suspension and tires make roots and gravel a non-issue. Rolling back into the neighborhood, I drop to level 1 and spin comfortably, so I do not come home sweaty if I do not want to. When I am taking my daughter for a short ride, I keep it slow, stick to level 1 or 2, and I appreciate the stability of the fat tires and the predictable brakes. The foot pegs give a place for her feet, and the rear rack does not flex in a way that feels sketchy, as long as I stay within the stated limits and keep the ride short and careful. There are smart touches that add up over time. The removable battery that slides out easily. The folding bars that actually lock solid when upright. The 7-speed drive that keeps pedaling useful even when the assist is hauling. The fact that the assist levels are simple and do not require a phone app or a long setup. I hop on, press the power button, pick a level and go. I also like that the tires strike a nice balance. They are wide enough to handle soft ground but do not feel like overkill on pavement. The bike is not silent. The motor has a soft whir, but it fades into the background quickly. It is not perfect. It is not light, and you feel that when lifting or maneuvering in a tight hallway. The rear suspension can pogo if you hit a series of bumps while seated, and the display could use a little more anti-glare. The headlight is good, not great. The throttle at the highest assist level can be eager. All of that said, the ride quality, the folding convenience, and the confidence I get from the brakes and tires outweigh those quirks. So who should consider this bike? If you want a reliable folding electric bike that rides like a bigger bike, something that can commute during the week and explore on gravel on the weekend, this fits. If you have limited storage and you need a bike that folds fast, this fits. If you want a removable battery for easy charging and future replacement, this fits. If you want a featherweight speed machine, or you have to carry a bike up several flights every day, this probably is not the right pick. I am keeping this in my regular rotation because it makes local trips easier and more fun, and it has held up to real riding without asking me to fuss with it. This is the Jasion EB7 2.0, and it does exactly what I hoped a folding electric bike would do. If this video helped you out, please subscribe to the channel, hit that bell so you do not miss the next one, and drop your questions or your own experiences in the comments. Thank you for watching.